A very warm welcome here to Autogefühl with the Range Rover Evoque Facelift, here on your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. Since 2011, the Range Rover Evoque has set a new era for the whole brand of Land Rover because they can now selling a lot of vehicles, not only a very small niche anymore. This one, the Evoque, has been sold over 400,000 times, almost 500,000 times worldwide. Well, and as 2011 was the inaugural model, now it was time for a facelift. New engines beneath the hood, some updates in the interior and, well, slight changes on the exterior. We're going to take a look at that. And of course, if you don't care so much about the facelift, there will be of course also a general review of the car in exterior, interior and the driving experience, especially now with the new engine. Let's go. What can we see in the front? You might know this front grille, but if you pick a higher trim level with the dynamic trim levels, this one is the basic one, the SE, but if you pick a higher trim level, you also got a new front grille now in black. However, the headlights are also changed. Here, they just have a little bit of sharper look than before even. And also at the air intakes, they have been slightly altered, but the basic shape remains the same. It's kind of small SUV, 4 meters 36 in length, but already got this very strong front. And that's kind of the design scheme with the Range Rover. Small but strong. And about the side profile, see the car is relatively short and we got the 5-door version here. I would always go for that one. It's really more handy than the coupe version and it doesn't differ so much than in the exterior look. 19-inch alloys here, quite huge. I wouldn't go for the 20-inch, then that Evoque gets too rough and it's a rather stiff SUV in general, so more to that sporty side also later in the driving experience. Also going more in detail about the alloys than here. 19 is still kind of okay. I would still in general recommend with the 18-inch alloys. In the facelift there haven't been so much changes, but again the Evoque has a very distinctive shape and I think you immediately recognize it on the road. The new Discovery Sport is also kind of rather similar now, and especially in comparison to the Freelander before, but the Evoque is definitely the more attractive car from the outside. As for the styling, someone might even prefer the rather conservative design of the Discovery because it's also kind of more angular at the rear. This one here, especially also here now in the side rear ending, more dramatic. What do you think about the rear of the Range Rover Evoque? I think it got here the special technical or some kind of robot style, maybe transformer style, because we see a lot of hard angles and that really distinguishes this car. Here in the facelift we got slightly altered taillights. You don't really see the difference that hard, but you know, if you do a facelift you always have to change the headlight, of course. So just to give you an overview of that rear. And beneath the hood we got the new diesel Land Rover or Jaguar Ingenium, says also right here. It's a new 2-liter diesel, also from this aluminum building style, and either with 150 or 180 horsepower. This is the 150 variant. I think I would go for the 180 horsepower variant in general, and you have some more power reserve. There's also the SI4 available, the petrol engine, but that one consumes really a lot, way above 10 liters per 100 kilometers. That's the petrol turbo engine here for. So I think the 180 horsepower variant is the more fitting one for that one. And this one here, in general, about the new diesel, I think the sound has been refined a little bit, especially to the old ones, and the consumption is also a little bit lower. It's not really the most dramatic change, but I think it's good that they got the updated engine here now. inside, and actually the interior is also a highlight of the Evoque. We got the SE trim level here now, that means quite low trim level, but we see a lot of great details already. This one here is not leather, it's well, some kind of cloth. It feels like something in between. It's also quite soft, and there you see you can actually use good quality materials that also look and feel very well without using real leather. However, this one here is optional, the real leather seats. I would not go for them. They get quite hot in summer as well, and also you see they will get stained quite easily. You already see it right here, although it's a quite new car. The styling of the Evoque is kind of unbeatable in the interior in this segment. You know, this steering wheel has the kind of, I would say, some technical robot style, and then we see more of these special surfaces which kind of imitate leather but aren't even faux leather. It's something in between. So very interesting what they did here, and I really love that because good quality and also looks very well. And also the middle console is quite huge for a compact SUV and has this, in this case here, this styling, this matte brushed aluminum elements, also one of my favorites, and especially contrasting very well to the exterior color. Let's get inside. The Evoque does offer a higher seating position, but not that high as we used from other compact SUVs, so it's really a crossover in between. And I do criticize that a little bit, because if I want an SUV, I want something proper SUV, stylish. That's my opinion. Maybe put yours in the comments what you think about this very aspect. But I really love the styling here. Again, when I sit down, really everything is covered in this special surface, and then the contrast to the brushed aluminum style, so clean and also very well processed. I really like it. It's always continuing here in the middle console. Also the buttons here and the climate control, they are all very well processed, and for example also better than with the recent Jaguars we've seen here from the interior build quality. And there I wonder, why can't they maybe share more of this interior quality? Also this here, the surface, when you feel it, everything is really high class processed. And there you also have an advantage, for example, in comparison to the Land Rover Discovery Sport, which is usually a little bit cheaper, offers more space, it's a more practical car, even higher seating position, although they share the same platform. But here you really get the styling element and more of the refinement, especially in the interior. 34,500 euros is the entry price in Germany right now. Now also for the Coupe, by the way, because before the Coupe was always starting with a higher trim level, but now you can get the 3-door and the 5-door version at the same entry price. Instruments, you start the ignition right here. Well, the classical in the middle screen you have the digital one, 7.5 liter consumption of 100 kilometers so far. This infotainment screen will be updated quite soon with the facelift, but this is kind of pre-production facelift model here now. But you will also have these in-control apps. You can plug in your smartphone then and have a mirror. It's not real Apple CarPlay, but how that works you can actually see in a separate video. We'll also link you below. We have tested that one in Jaguar XE so far. The GPS is here also still the old system, but that one will also be updated. This one is the one you've known before, maybe from Jaguar Land Rover, but this one will also be updated. But again, this very car doesn't have it yet because they are just about to build the facelift. What else can you use in the infotainment system? We got a Rearview Entertainment system here as well. And, for example, also a TV tuner you can watch here. Let's see, for example, here there's a TV, and I can put the old screen in. That can also be directed in the rear. And then just to show you when I start driving, because then it should actually shut off. Yes, it does. Yeah. And passenger to view image, press the dual view key. I'm not sure, can you see it from your side at the moment? Is that a dual view key, or where's a dual view key? No, wait a minute. That's again TV, and it's right again. So now just open it. When I press dual view key now, put the seatbelt on as well. Can you see it now from your perspective? Because that's dual view TV. Yeah, that works. So when you have it from your perspective as a co-driver, that works then. If you go from it, now it's because I'm slow again, but now again I'm going faster. Then you see, from a driver perspective, you see just the menu. From a co-driver perspective, you see the TV screen, and that's you know, a system we knew from the big Range Rover. It's quite a cool function. It also works for the rear view camera, by the way. That's pretty cool in person, obviously, if you check the effect now. So I got the rear view camera from my perspective, rear view camera, and from your perspective, it's still the TV, some politician talking. You can hear what he says as well. And so you can also put the TV screen here in the rear, for example, for your kids when you're traveling. That's maybe good. For example, the TV tuner is available, but you can also bring your movies on a USB stick, for example. And then there's also, you can actually play it for everyone in the car, but there's also Bluetooth headphones here available, and then you can listen to that one here. By the way, Top Gear USA is running here now in German TV with synchronization, quite weird, but in general, which show do you like more? Autogefühl or Top Gear USA? Put me in the comments. The climate unit right here, I think it's very well done. The keys, buttons, everything good in quality. It feels good to control. Seat heating is right here. It doesn't run because the engine is not running at the moment. Then about the shifting lever, I will also tell you more about that when we drive, but we feel right now it takes a lot of power to go into the different gears. Really not that optimal, especially for people who don't have so much power in their hands. And the same is, by the way, also with the clutch pedal, also takes a lot of power. So I would really take the automatic gearbox here, the optional one. Storage space is here at the inside of the door. Big bottles do not really fit in there. And there's a quite huge glove box. Then, especially for the Evoque, for some Land Rovers, we have some space here in between. You can shake your hands with the co-driver then. Then there's a huge box of beverage holders here inside. And the middle armrest, you've got some space here and 2 USB slots as well as a 12-volt power supply. So what else? Let me just sum up the interior. I think very refined, also great styling. That's also one of the main reasons you would buy an Evoque, because you got such a great interior visually and also from the quality. Really very good in this case. We got the panoramic roof here also. You cannot open it, but it goes all the way into the back of the car. I would usually go for a car, you know, rather that you can open it and that it's not maybe going until the very back, but that you can really have some fresh air. But that's the case not here. However, if it gets too hot, then you can use this shade, and you see it is really closing it properly, because we've had other cars before, there were sometimes even no shade at all, for example in the Citroën Cactus. And then we had some cars where it's kind of like, you know, this checkered structure, something like that, and here it's really close, so it protects you against the heat. That's the Range Rover key, by the way. Now we get in the rear part. Obviously we got the 5-door version, but it has no handle up here, so it's not so good for getting in. What about the space here in the back? It's not as good as in the Discovery Sport. That is definitely a big difference. And however, it's still okay for my knees, but at my feet, it's going like it's getting up a little bit, so it's not too comfortable for your feet. Really hardly any space there. That's a problem actually. With the headspace, it is obwohl, yeah, that's some German word. Although we have the panoramic roof, I do have a lot of headspace, and that's the reason because you cannot open or close this roof. Then you also don't lose headspace with picking it. So just above the ceiling, no problem at all. And a really great view, especially for the rear passengers. The panoramic roof pays off, and the rear infotainment system we've shown you. I think you don't want to look at the Land Rover logo all the time when you're driving, although you're really a huge Land Rover fan. Then you might think, oh, best infotainment ever. Let's check this hatch here, and it's an electric opening gate. With the facelift, it's also possible to opening with the foot mechanism sensor, but it's not included here in this very vehicle. And we'll also test how does it work about the security. Does it really stop when the child is standing here? Hey, that was actually quite fast. Very well done, because you might remember we've tested a lot of vehicles lately about this, and usually the vehicles stop too late, or you have to be too strong, and that might cut off a head of a child or something like that. So let's do the same also when it's moving down. Oh, there again, when it's moving down, that was, you know, has to be more sensitive, I think, because that is really too dangerous. Again, I'm not sure why the manufacturers are not getting it. Let's check this compartment here, and actually, you know, it's kind of this spectacular design outside, but on the inside, therefore, it's kind of squarey, so you can very well use it. However, it's not too long, of course, because the car is relatively short. The seats, however, can be flipped from the inside. I can show you how that one plays out then. And that's it. And yeah, it's actually a quite even loading surface in here. Let's now drive the Range Rover Evoque in the model year 16 with this facelift. And it's actually quite exciting because we have the most fuel-saving model, the ED4. That means we have the front-wheel drive model only. The other ones then have all-wheel drive. This is the new 2-liter diesel with 150 horsepower. There's also one available with 180 horsepower. That one is then for the all-wheel drive model. And well, yeah, it's good that we have the new diesel, because the old one we, for example, still had in the Land Rover Discovery Sport. Well, it sounded quite old dieselish, and yeah, also consumed a little bit too much. So I hope this will improve with that one here now. It definitely feels more refined, and we also know the engine from the Jaguars. I'm actually quite satisfied with it. There's also the petrol engine available, but hardly plays any role because that one is all kind of old and consumes a lot of fuel actually. From the basic driving experience, the Evoque of course remained rather the same, and that means you have a basically upright seating position, but not that high as in other compact SUVs. So it's kind of a mix in between. It's definitely a crossover style. So if you want in higher position, then you should go for another compact SUV, or maybe search a bigger car inside the Land Rover model lineup. So here you still can feel somewhat like in a car, but have a little bit more upright seating position than in a sedan, for example. And then you also realize it while driving. From the sound insulation, it's actually quite good, and if we also compare it to other models in the corporation, for example, we've recently driven some Jaguars, and I think it's even a little bit better in here in this case, because you feel a little bit more insulated from the surrounding. We also got the head-up display here, and well, for example, right now you see the speed I am actually driving, and also the speed I am allowed to drive. That's also a good thing always, that you don't exceed the speed limit. In this case, as we have this kind of fuel-saving version, we also have a manual gearbox, and well, it shows some resistance. Sporty in a way that the shifting lever is actually quite short. That's quite funny for such a car, but it really needs some power to put the gears in. So in general, I would rather recommend the automatic gearbox, which is why at Jaguar Land Rover usually the 8-speed that have gearbox, and that one is actually quite good. Also, when you turn the shifting lever, it's a little bit strange because it goes a little bit like in a half circle between the gears then. Yeah, and as a Range Rover Evoque is also a city SUV, it's also pretty much normal to be stuck in traffic. Start-stop function is also that the engine turns out then. And yeah, so you sometimes just relax and wait for the traffic light to turn green again. That's of course also Germany. It's not always about the maximum tempo limits on the motorway. So yeah, the steering wheel, I think I told you in the interior review, so very attractive just from the visual part. And it's also quite good to control, so you don't need much steering power. And again, it shows this kind of crossover style because it has, you know, some kind of off-road element, but then again, some kind of this very technical design style again. And that's It's also this mix the Evoque is actually made of. By the way, the turning indicator sound, if you listen to them, I think a little bit weird. It sounds so old schoolish, I would say. And I would expect something more in this case then. Is this 100 horsepower diesel enough? Yeah, I would say so. Because, you know, most of the time you're actually in the city with the Evoque. And they definitely have enough power. Maybe we'll check it again when we are maybe some part driving on the motorway, that we can also judge that better then. But in general, yeah, it doesn't really make sense to pick the big petrol engine here because it consumes too much. And if it's now 150 or 180 horsepower, that's maybe also not the biggest difference then in this case. About the suspension, yeah, actually I have criticized the Evoque in the past for being a little bit too stiff because, you know, still buying an SUV and not really a sports car, and especially with 20-inch alloys, it was really, really rough. We also got big alloys here right now, but they have actually worked on the suspension a little bit, so it is actually a little bit more comfortable right now. Not as comfortable as it should be, in my opinion, but better than before. I think the most important point here then is really that you don't go for the really big alloys, but the Evoque is often showcased as well with huge wheels because it adds to this very dramatic look then. But don't be fooled by that. For the riding comfort, I would not actually go for them. So that's maybe also something very important you should actually bear in mind. Yeah, what else we got with the facelift? From the driving, actually not so much has changed, and it's really more what we showed you on some change on the exterior and also on the interior. Biggest changing, what the driving was really the new engines here that have completely replaced the old diesel engines. That I think is the most important aspect, and we can just check what we got as a consumption in here. Let's see what vehicle information, because we got next to the classic analog instruments, we also got the digital screen in the middle part. So, and let's now push it a little bit. Diesel, let's see. 60 now. You can't really expect a lot of performance, and also with this manual shifting here. So it's really rather for calm driving. If you want a little sporty approach from your Evoque, then you should go probably for the 180 horsepower version. And what else besides the kind of stiff shifting, also when pressing the clutch pedal here, that always requires a lot of power. I mean, if you have a very strong foot suspension, it's no problem. But maybe some of you don't, you know, or maybe it's annoying that the pedal or the shifting is a little bit harsh. So at least I would recommend for both stuff to go for the automatic gearbox, and because that one is also pretty great. And I mean, if you maybe picked not the highest trim level, that's maybe still possible to afford to achieve that one. About the consumption, yeah, it's actually a little bit lower than the diesel before. Here it's something about 7 liters, and that also complies with the consumption of the engine that the Jaguar XF or XE have. They're a little bit higher there maybe, but also you have to bear in mind that the Evoque is also not the lightest car.
Okay, danke.
Also, warte, müssen wir mal kurz rauchen. Ich will mal eine Kurvenszene machen, nochmal irgendwie, dass man da nochmal was hat. Schluss haben. Läuft's nochmal? Sporty driving. Yeah, the steering wheel is not too indirect, but well, for a sporty SUV. It could be director also when you go right and left. Well, for an SUV, it is a quite of agile feeling, definitely. That also fits to that the suspension is generally a little bit stiffer. So it's not that soft, high, comfortable SUV feeling. The Evoque is really more about being that, well, rather sporty, agile SUV. And although, you know, the design on the outside doesn't promise you a very good overview, you can actually quite well see where the car is ending also when you look to all the sides. Let's now get to our conclusion. From the exterior, I think the Range Rover Evoque still sets standards. It's more a love or hate car, but what is definitely, it is kind of dramatic in the design, and the facelift has even sharpened up that one. In the interior, we got great quality and also visually very good solutions, even in the lower trim levels. And I've shown you that here. You can just easily go for the standard version with the cloth seats and this kind of cloth material on the dashboard is very beautifully done, and you got a high-class car already in the entry level. And that's also, I think, one of the main reasons why the Evoque is sold so often, besides that a lot of people are attracted to the exterior design. What else has been changed now with the facelift? Well, also in the interior, not so much has been done about this new InControl Touch app. Like I told you, you can check that one in the video description, the special link about that, and it will be updated in this very car also a little bit more. And then you have the smartphone integration if you want, so if that's important to you. To me, it wouldn't be that important actually. Beneath though, I told you it's new diesel. That's the biggest change definitely with that one, and a little work on the suspension, so it's not that rough anymore as it used to be, especially if you don't put on the 20-inch alloys. As I said, 18 I think is a good choice, 19 as it was here, you can also still live with that. So that was our review here from the Evoque. Let's sum it, really design king, not maybe the most flexible one as for the space, but really here it's all about the style. So what do you think about the Evoque? As for all aspects we have covered, and tell us also what you think about Autogefühl, and I hope we see us at the next review.